I would say I would flip that question around and say, why is officiating such a good fit for veterans? We can all say that, go down the list of their discipline and can get training and stuff. I think we've mentioned a lot of that already, but the camaraderie and the community is what a lot of times we're missing, especially when we transition out. If you've been out for a long time, maybe you've missed that for an extended period of time and you're kind of lost. But like, I'm sure we'll get into talking about mentorship and things like that. Just being able to be involved in sport, which clearly you have to have some interest to get in there. But to be able to have a group of people that you're looking forward to see, a team that you're able to be the third team on the field, and maybe go get dinner or lunch or something either after, or maybe a nice cold beverage, some water.
I think just even with the military guys and anybody, just it's the whole camaraderie thing. The exciting thing is that they all can get into a locker room, and then they all end up having something in common, and they talk about it and they enjoy it. And the one thing I will tell you is you get veteran officials, a lot of them, they will do anything they can to help somebody new or somebody else. It is one tight-knit community. I can tell you that. You go somewhere, I travel out my job and I run tournaments. I start talking to umpires, and the next thing you know, he knows this guy and he knows this guy and you know this guy. And it's the relationships and everything to get built in it. And it excites me to see the whole thing come together. It's a great group, and they will learn it as they do it. The longer they do it, that it's a small world with the officials. There's no doubt.
When you work with a first responder or a military veteran, it seems like they just have the natural ability to talk to you. Like they're very receptive in how they tell you what you're doing wrong or how you can improve. It's not like, to me, it's kind of like the teacher mentality. When you have an official that's a teacher, they seem also very good at explaining to you why, as opposed to just saying, you need to signal better. Well, what do you mean by signal better? They seem to they offer up advice in a much more tactful way. And I've noticed that over my years of officiating.
So Mike was driving up on a fishing trip one day, and he likes to turn the radio off and just think. And he was thinking about what he could do to help get more people into officiating in general. And he came up with this concept that veterans would be very good officials because they can take training, discipline, they can stand their own ground, and just kind of people would probably make good officials. So in 2017, he put together Battlefields to Ballfields.
The other one was just kind of a tearjerker. The guy, 20-year military veteran, comes home, has a family, he's going and raises 3 daughters. And, he was the stay-at-home dad, and he just, they started getting older, and how a dad and daughters, and, you're so tight when they're little, and then they kind of want to move away. And he said, he finally saw this and he signed up to become an official so he could do something for himself.
Uh-oh.
And said he still wants to be able to see his daughters play their sports, and being an official gives him the flexibility. But he's like, now I'm actually doing something for myself again. And so it was really heartfelt.
And now, episode 24, letter V, Veterans. Join host Dana Pappas with special guests Robert Rivinius, Jordan Cohen, Jed McNally, and Bill Kreuper on the From A to Zebra podcast.
Welcome back to the From A to Zebra podcast. I'm Dana Pappas. My co-host Nate Acosta has a basketball game right now, so I'm trying to hold down the fort without him. Today, we're bringing you a very special episode that focuses on people whose service extends far beyond their roles as contest officials and all of the other things that they do in their lives. On this episode, we are covering the letter V, and our topic of the day is veterans. Our guests will talk about 3 organizations that work with military veterans and active military members to get them involved in officiating. Our guests today are Robert Rivinius from Battlefields to Ballfields, Jordan Cohen from Protect the Game, Bill Kreuper, and Jed McNally of Vets to Refs. Thank you all for joining us. So we're going to jump right into the topic of veterans. You also have so much to share with our listeners about your organizations. Can you each tell us about your organization, when and how it got started, what its mission is, what your role is within the organization? And we'll start with Robert with Battlefields to Ballfields.
Thank you, Dana. So Mike Pereira, who's renowned for his work on Fox football games for the NFL, Mike is very concerned because of the lack of officials we live in Sacramento, and one of the issues here is we had to go to Thursday and Friday night football because there weren't enough officials for Friday night. I have one friend that officiated football until he was 80, so that was pretty good. So Mike was driving up on a fishing trip one day, and he likes to turn the radio off and just think. And he was thinking about what he could do to help get more people into officiating in general. And he came up with this concept that veterans would be very good officials because they can take training, discipline, they can stand their own ground, and just the kind of people would probably make good officials. So in 2017, he put together Battlefields to Ballfields. It's a 501c3. So everything, all the funds we get are deductible, and kicked it off with a golf tournament at the golf club that Mike and I both belong to here in Sacramento. And to date, I think we've given out about 1,700 what we call scholarships. So a veteran applies, we check their background, make sure they're really veterans. There's a way to do that. And if they are very interested in it, so when they sign up, we send them the uniforms. By the way, it's any sport, and right now we're in 38 states. So we send them the uniforms and pay their association dues so they get their training and things for a 3-year period. Our typical scholarship is about $1,200. Obviously, baseball is expensive because of the extra equipment that umpires need, etc. Things like swimming, not very expensive at all. So it averages out to about $1,200. And it's an exciting program. We are really picking up steam. I think in January, we had 55 new applicants, mostly in baseball. They kind of go seasonally, depending on what sport's coming along. And Mike drafted me for the board a few years ago, and I'm now chairman. I really enjoy the work, and we have an excellent board. We found a few new sources of revenue. As I said, our biggest source is a big golf tournament here in Sacramento, which you've attended, Dana.
I have indeed. So Jordan Cohen from Protect the Game, you're up next.
Dana, thank you for doing this. Appreciate it. So I'm with Protect the Game. We're based out of Fort Collins, Colorado. We work with Triple Crown Sports. The lady I work with, Patty Harsh, one day they were in the office and they were putting their minds together, trying to figure out how we could help the shortage of officials. We run youth tournaments all over the country with all sports, and we had a tournament in Texas, and there were 20 fields, and I think at the morning we had 10 fields covered. Our assigner didn't communicate very well with us, and so we were stuck there trying to figure out how we were going to handle it. So Patty got involved with an initiative that Triple Crown decided to back in memory of her brother. He was a Marine, and we started Protect the Game. We started in 2018. We've had approximately now 330 members go through. Our retention rate is good, but we always, you always wish it's better. But we will supply officials with uniforms, equipment, and training. And thank you to Battlefields to Ballfields, because we have partnered and we are working with them, and it's really been a great partnership and it's helped us out. And we will go through a training anywhere from 3 days to 5 days, and we'll train you and get you ready to go. We'll connect you with a local assigner who then will start working you on with games.
That's great. And then we have a dynamic duo, both coming to us for Vets to Reps, and that's Bill Kreuper and Jeb McNally. Gentlemen, if you could tell us a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Dana. We're super excited. So Bill Kreuper, along with his sister Liz, and myself, Jeb McNally, we are the tri-founders of Vets to Refs. We started our program 11 months ago, and we have the similar idea to support veterans, and we also include first responders to become sports officials. So we do everything we can to walk them through the process of signing up with their state association and help them acquire uniforms and equipment. We are also joining forces with Battlefields to Ballfields for some support on that as well. Then we include training via ref reps and ref masters to help. So when they go to the field for the first time, they have some very good formal training. And then also when they go to their association meeting, they don't feel like an outcast and new terminology doesn't throw them off. They get a good, strong base out of those two. And then lastly, we're trying to build a community so that we can help support these guys and then also recognize their successes.
That's outstanding. And so kind of from my perspective, when I was at the New Mexico Activities Association, the New Mexico Officials Association was the flagship state for Battlefields to Ballfields. So it was something that was definitely near and dear to my heart. I serve on the board of directors for B2B. Last month, I was able to go to a Protect the Game camp back home in Albuquerque, and finally got to meet Jordan in person, which was awesome. And then Bill and Jeb and I have talked about how we can kind of get involved together. And I think it's just such a great idea and such a great concept to do something to honor the people who have served our military, who have served as first responders. And I love the fact that everybody's kind of having conversations on this call. All the people on this call are having conversations behind the scene to figure out how to work together, because we're in the same space and we're all trying to do really good things. And all three organizations are doing such good work that I think that having this episode of this podcast to really highlight all three of you and what you're doing is so important, because this message needs to get out. People need to know that there's resources available and that we're doing some kind of specialized stuff in this space, which I think is really cool. So my hat is off to all three organizations for the work that's being done. So kind of along those lines, now that we know about your organizations, can each of you tell us about your own military experience? Or if you weren't in the military, can you tell us maybe what your tie is to the military, why this is such a passion project for you? And I'll defer to whoever would like to respond first.
Well, yeah, I'll start out. So I was the Vietnam era guy, and I volunteered to go. I got sent home on a medical, so I had to live my military life vicariously through my brother-in-law. He and I both graduated from college the same year, and he was the top cadet up at ROTC, University of Oregon, and so he got a regular Army commission and had a wonderful career. He wound up as a lieutenant general. He was a Signal Corps officer at one time, and his last job was J6 at the Pentagon, which is right under the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So he's a terrific guy, and I followed his career very closely and loved what he did. And because I didn't get to serve as a veteran, this meant a lot to me to give something back to veterans and really get involved in a program and help them out.
I love that. And thank your brother-in-law for his service. Bill, Jeb?
Yeah, I'll hop in. So I'm Bill Kreuper. Dana, thanks for having us on. And Robert, good to see you again. You as well, Jordan. So let's see, I joined the Navy in December of 1999 as an enlisted nuke machinist mate. Went through some training, and it just escalated from there. I've seen the best training in the world in all different aspects. I got picked up to be an officer. I put in my 3 options as to what I wanted. I got picked up to be a pilot. I went through pilot training, and then the path is always different and unique for every veteran, but I've served overseas in Japan on an aircraft carrier, in Iraq with an Army unit, and with 20 years in the Navy, I spent 10 and a half of them on an Air Force base. So very, very interesting, and you always remember the people, and you could, share war stories and all that, but it is always revolving around a tight unit or just, the people that you're going through difficult times with.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your service. And Jeb?
So I have a brother-in-law that is a Marine reservist. Then he's also a police officer in a town next door to us. So really honored to have him at all our family functions. And then just growing up with Bill and watching his career and his journey, and just always praying that he was going to be safe, and just so thankful to still be able to be with him every day and go on this journey. We're just really honored to help support as many veterans and give them something exciting to look forward to at the end of their day, at the end of their career, so they can always, just keep healthy and strong and have a really exciting thing to look forward to as an official every night.
I love that. And Bill, you said something that just hit home about that tight-knit community and being able to kind of replicate that in the officiating family. So going from that, kind of regimented life that you go through in the military, and then finding something where you have that same sense of community. I think that's why it's such a good fit for military, for first responders, because it's kind of what you're used to. So that's why it's such a natural and organic fit into officiating. Jordan?
I was not in the military, but I've had family members in the military, and it was more Patty with, like I said, her brother was in the military. After he was discharged, he was living in Nebraska, and he had some medical issues, and she wanted to try to get him back home to Colorado. And then she just ran into a bunch of people, talked to a bunch of military vets who were his friend, and they organized a life flight from him to Nebraska to Colorado. And she was so thankful for that. And then when he was in the hospital, all the vets that came had seen him. And so she wanted to put something together, and I have the background with umpiring and everything. And I told her I'd be glad to jump on board and help help train these guys, and it's our way to give back to them for, everything they've done to us. And we love what we do, and we just love getting them going.
That's great. And I'm the same. I don't have a military background. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which has an Air Force base very close to where I grew up. Most of my friends were Air Force kids, and they cycled in and out every 4 years. So our friendships were always like, oh, now you're moving away again. But always had an appreciation for the military. And, when Ballfields kind of came on the forefront of everything back in 2017, and asked if we'd be the first state, it was a no-brainer, because it's just one of those things where all of us on this call, whether we personally served or have family that served or just have a deep sense of respect for the military, that's why we want to do this, because the sacrifices that each military member, each first responder, in the case of Vets to Refs, we don't do enough for them. And I think that this is just such a good way to give back to people who really need a safe place to land a little bit after their service. So I'm just love what everybody had to say. So kind of segueing into our next question, why do you think that military veterans and active military members are such a good fit for officiating?
As I said, I think we found there's a really interesting video on our website. Even though Mike's on Fox, ESPN did about a 7 or 8 minute video that they actually played on ESPN. I think it was two Veterans Days ago, and we actually have a couple of people interviewed, and one woman says, you saved my husband's life because he came back with PTSD very badly, and I was almost afraid to go to work. And he found out about your program, and now he's officiating 2 sports, and he's very happy, and has turned his life around. And so, honestly, that one example is all you really need to be happy to have a program.
Absolutely.
I would say I would flip that question around and say, why is officiating such a good fit for veterans? We can all say that, go down the list of their discipline and can get training and stuff. I think we've mentioned a lot of that already, but the camaraderie and the community is what a lot of times we're missing, especially when we transition out. If you've been out for a long time, maybe you've missed that for an extended period of time and you're kind of lost. But I'm sure we'll get into talking about mentorship and things like that. Just being able to be involved in sport, which clearly you have to have some interest to get in there, but to be able to have a group of people that you're looking forward to see, a team that you're able to be the third team on the field, and maybe go get dinner or lunch or something either after, or maybe a nice cold beverage, some water. When I'm just so you all know, I'm in training to become a referee. I'm going down the path to become a football official. I know that this focus is on veterans, but it's also got to be on the officials, because I aspire to be my buddy Jeb. He lives where we grew up. He knows the community. He's got tight-knit people there. He's involved, and that's what we miss, because either you don't live where you grew up or you've moved around so many times, you don't know everybody in town. You just get out of the service, and now you're lost. You're like, okay, I need a job. I need something to do. I need to exercise. But officiating can get you contacts. It can get you involved with the community, get your tight-knit group, little camaraderie. I think it can go a long way.
Bill, as you were speaking, I don't know why I was getting a little emotional about it. And I think you were hitting on that spot about that. We talk about all the time about that officiating family and having that group of people who they have your back. And officiating, it's kind of lonely other than with your other officials. People don't understand what officials go through to work a game, and the time away from home, and the time away from their jobs. And then you have this band of brothers and sisters with the officiating that, they can order your dinner for you because they've heard you order your burger with no onion and tomato 10 times. So they know what you eat. They know what you like. They know about your families. Something goes bad in your life, they're the ones that are there to kind of pick you up. And I think that sense of that officiating family or that officiating community is really, it's something that is, I always get very emotional about, because I know how much it means to me. So to hear you talk about it in terms of transitioning from military to civilian life, I think that you hit on such an important component of why it's a good fit kind of in both directions. So I appreciate your perspective as someone who has served and now as somebody who's going to officiate football. That's so awesome. I'm excited to hear that. Let us know at the NFHS what we can do for you. You know some people, so whatever we can do to help.
you'll be hearing some stuff.
Absolutely. We're here for you. So as you all have worked with your respective organizations, and I know Robert just kind of gave one from the video, do you have any success stories that you can share with us of somebody who maybe has come in through your organization and now you're seeing them do whatever that mark of success is? It doesn't mean they have to work the Super Bowl, but kind of those wins. If you could each share one, each organization or each person, however you want to do it, can share a success story with us.
Well, one of the other ones that's in the video, and anybody can see it on our website, is a gentleman who was in his home. He and his wife separated, and he kind of lost touch with his kids, and he was not happy about it. And he was in the military, and then he heard that his son was playing football, and he thought, I'm going to go be an official, and maybe that's why I can reconnect with my son. And it worked. And his son, another tearjerker of his story, but his son, and he reconnected because of that, and it would probably never happen if he hadn't been doing that. So that's a real success story to me. I think the other thing that's important is, according to Mike, and these are statistics we're estimating, so can't be held to them, but we think our success rate is about 70%, and Mike thinks in the general population it's more like 30%. And by that I mean the people that stick with it. About 70% of our folks actually like it and stick with it. And that's why we do the 3-year program. Some do drop out after the first year, but most of them stay the whole 3 years with us, and then they're set and ready to go. And so we have a higher percentage of success, and I do think it's because we're dealing with military people who have the discipline and the wherewithal and the esprit de corps, whatever you want to say, to make it work for them.
Absolutely.
We had a young guy come through. His father was in the military, and he was 18, just out of high school, and he had started umpiring a little bit and came through our training. And then about 3 months later, he went to the Major League umpire camp. They host camps all over the country, and he got picked up by it, and so he got a scholarship to go to the Major League school. And he didn't get to the top tier where he got a job in the minor leagues, but he went on to do college wood bat last year, and he went back to school this year. And so just seeing that was just incredible. And it just, you get excited even when I have, guys that work for me here that get to that point. You just really want to see them get there. But the camaraderie piece is huge we've noticed that when we're training the guys and just when they're together and all that. And just a little story. I had a guy who went through our program, and I was down in Arizona. We were talking to a guy who runs a military group, and we were talking about getting people in. And I had went to lunch with him the other day, and the conversation was okay. But the next day, the young guy who was a veteran comes in, and they were together like 45 seconds, and their conversation was just crazy. How they initially just got along, and you saw the conversation, and it was just like, wow, it was so shocking to me, but it just made me really realize that, the veterans it's just such a tight knit group, and it's great. But those are the two stories that really just get me excited about it.
Love that.
And I can attest to Jordan's group. I'm sure in the parking lot between games, all the officials are circled up around their respective cars, or if you have a locker room and they're just sharing war stories from the field, hopefully not from the battlefield. But we've had a couple successes. We got a guy out of Tennessee. He was traveling through Indianapolis, and we did a program called Share the Love on a local TV channel. And they raised some money for us. And he happened to be in town and saw it and took a snapshot of the TV so that he knew what to do, and ended up calling us. And he's been just absolutely gung-ho. Football. Now he's doing baseball. So he's going on to the next one. And then the other one was just kind of a tearjerker. The guy, 20-year military veteran, comes home, has a family, he's going and raises 3 daughters. And, he was the stay-at-home dad, and he just, they started getting older, and how a dad and daughters, and, you're so tight when they're little, and then they kind of want to move away. And he said he finally saw this, and he signed up to become an official so he could do something for himself.
Oh.
And said he still wants to be able to see his daughters play their sports, and being an official gives him the flexibility. But he's like, now I'm actually doing something for myself again. And so it was really heartfelt.
As a lifelong daddy's girl, I love that story. So that was awesome.
It was great.
I'll throw one more in there. We heard from a active duty Marine who was so excited that he just flat out put his hat in the ring. He said, I want in, I want to help, I want to do it, and I want to help your program out. Like, I've got a year and a half left to go, but he was already working as a football official, but now he's got some additional training through Ref Masters, and he's loving it. And we talk on the app, and we've got conversation going. It's great.
I love everything about that, all these success stories, because
Dana,
you all are, yeah,
right.
Go ahead, Robert.
One thing I was just going to say is that one other positive is we have people that have gotten multiple scholarships from us because they get into our number one sport's football, probably because of Mike's celebrity. But when somebody gets into football and they think, I'd like to do baseball too, or maybe try basketball. So we'll give them multiple scholarships for different sports. And we do have people that are in multiple sports.
And that's awesome. I think that's something we miss a lot, is sometimes the best place to recruit is from our existing pool of officials. So if they already know how to officiate, it's a lot easier to get them in another sport because they've got those game management skills and all of the things that aren't in the rule book. So that's important. When Jeb was talking about people being huddled around their cars or locker rooms, I started laughing because I was like, baseball and softball umpires are going, wait, people have locker rooms? Because they are definitely the ones getting dressed in their cars. So I kind of had to stifle a laugh on that one. Those are great stories. And I know when I was at the Protect the Game camp last month, there was a father and son that were there together, and the son was, I think, 11, Jordan, and
12, actually, 12.
12. So he was getting involved in umpiring, and you could just tell this kid at 12 years old had more confidence than most adults. But to see somebody at that age and having it be a father-son thing, like, it was really cool. So I love hearing about that, and I love seeing it and seeing new faces in officiating. I think it's a neat thing to see the avocation grow.
It depends on how my son's hockey tournament, he's a high school hockey player, they're in the state tournament. Depends on how it goes, but if it doesn't go our way, the following weekend, there's a chance that him and I will be on the ice officiating together. So
I love that.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous because he's such a good skater compared to me. It's going to embarrass me, but I hope he wins so we don't have to. But if not, there's a chance.
Well, if it happens, you get to work. Make sure you get pictures and video and send those to me, because I love that stuff. Anytime you see a father-son, mother-daughter, whatever the case may be, working together, I think that's the coolest thing ever. When officiating family is family, that's it's pretty special.
Well, Robert said that he was that they were at a 70% retention. That's incredible.
That's unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, we're lucky. We have a lot of guys drop out after the first year and even the second year. And so when you're saying 70%, man, that's great.
Well, I hope I'm right.
Well,
I know Mike has mentioned that. Oh my gosh, 40% would be good. 70% is insanely good. And I think, so much of that goes into this people who speak the same language. When Jordan was talking about the two military people who saw each other, and immediately it was like they were just in their own world because of that shared vernacular, that shared experience, and you just automatically have that. So I think that part of what you all are doing is helping to have those relationships that are really paramount to what we're doing officiating.
One other interesting thing for us is that we have more people wash out in the application process. I think there are probably some people that think, hey, this is a quick way to pick up $1,200. Well, it isn't, because we send them the uniforms and we reimburse them for their association dues. So there's no cash involved until they have skin in the game. And a lot of them just, when they find out what it really entails, or they take their first class or whatever, just really it's not their cup of tea. So once they get into it, though, it's really good.
That's great. So all three organizations that are on this are nonprofit. So as nonprofit organizations, it's certainly important that you have partners, fundraisers, volunteers. What are some of the partner organizations? I know some of them are all three on this call that are working together, but what are some other organizations that you work with? How do you raise funds to be able to support your mission?
Well, as I mentioned, we have a very successful golf tournament. I think this year we netted about $280,000, and a lot of it's due to the wonderful packages Mike puts together. I mean, he'll take people into the studio and put them up at his condo in Manhattan Beach, and so these things will go for $10,000 or $15,000, and he'll put together 5 or 6 of them. So that really helps us a lot, and people love the golf tournament. We bring veterans out to it. This year we actually it was really cool. We had veterans in their officiating uniforms helping people get the bags out of their car and tell them where to park and stuff. really went over well. The other thing we've done is we put a few people on the board that have gone after some grants. We got some $25,000 grants. We're hoping some of them will be along, more than once. But even if it's only once, $25,000 is sure better than a poke in the eye. And we can. I mean, that gets quite a few scholarships out for us. So I would say, other than the organizations on this call and a few others like us, we don't have a lot of partners. But Mike goes out and speaks quite a bit, and he's a very good speaker, as you might guess. And we usually pick up, if he gets an honorarium, he contributes to the program. And we also picked up some, I'll tell you one that was really interesting. We went up, I drove up with him to Grass Valley, which is about an hour east of here. And he spoke to a group, and we have 58 counties in California. And each county has a person that's a Veterans Affairs rep that shows people getting out of the military what they can do and leads them to jobs and things. So all these people in one room, and Mike got to speak to them. And that led to all kinds of contacts and, being on people's websites and all kinds of things. So the outreach is, the more we can get Mike out there, the better it is.
Absolutely. Jordan?
Yeah, we've partnered with, we said Battlefields to Ballfields. We have a partnership with Smitty's Athletic Uniforms and stuff, and then Attire also. So we've partnered with them, and they've been, they help us out. We also do a golf outing every year. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. Do some silent auctions. I'm a autograph hound, I guess. We seem to have a lot when we have, in our tournaments, we have a lot of ex-professional players have their kids out there. So I gingerly try not to bother them too much, but been very fortunate to get a lot of good autographs that way, and baseballs and bats. And then we do silent auctions with them at our golf outing this year. We had the local fire department. They came out with a big old snorkel, and they hung a flag up when we did the national anthem and stuff. It was actually really, really just incredible. We've gotten 3 grants this year. We hired a grant writer, so we've gotten 3 grants right now, and we're pretty close to hopefully getting a couple more. And then we partnered ourselves with just local assigners or umpire groups that I've gotten to know the people really well, and so they help us with the training, so we don't have to fly out and do all of them and stuff. And we've been very, very lucky just having great relationships with those guys. We've never had one person tell us what we're doing is a bad idea. Everybody really likes it, and they get behind it. And so we just work like crazy to make it happen. And thank God it does in most cases. So
Yeah,
Bill and Jeb?
as far as Vesta Refs is concerned, we've got some key partners. So we focus on getting them, like Jeb said, signed up at the state level, and then also some training that can either prepare them for the exam or get their exam to be honored, depending on what state they're in. But that's Ref Masters. Ref Masters has a baseball, basketball, and football official that hosts like video trainings. They've got Ref Masters University, which is all kinds of sharing of different people's opinion on a certain play, and you talk it through. Ref Reps, as Rob already talked about, we're using Ref Reps for them to get their initial training. They get 1 seat license, so that takes them through their initial sport, and then they get the POV videos as well, preps them for the exam. And then we also have Run and Ref, which is Austin Ardrey, gives out all kinds of physical and stretching advice and how to take care of your body. Jeb mentioned it, and I don't know if Bob's going to say, but we're in talks with Battlefields to Ballfields to get our ideas a little bit more synergy and to see where it will land. So we're looking forward to that. As far as how do we raise the money, I mean, we've only been doing this for going on almost a year now, but we've been listening to your advice to hear how to do it best. We did use the local TV station, actually reached several people as far as donations coming in, sending out letters and whatnot. And then we also host Settled on the Field podcast, where we're, every, I don't know, 7th or 8th episode, we've been talking about something referee related and mentioned Vesta Refs.
One thing we agreed to when we talked earlier this week, I think it was, Jeb and Bill and Mike and I had a Zoom meeting, and we all agreed that there's plenty of room for all of us. So we don't need to carve out any turf, because it's a wide open field, and we're all needed and necessary, and we're all doing our best. So there's plenty of opportunities for all of us to keep doing this.
Absolutely. There's plenty of room. We can all play in the sandbox together, I think, because we're all doing good work. So I think that's
we should,
important.
yes.
Absolutely.
I know when we've gotten on a TV station in an area where we're doing the training, we're doing it all over the country. That's really been our big success. We've gotten on and they've interviewed us and they worked with us. We had a real big success a few years ago in Arizona when Fox did a thing in the morning on us. And then just this week in Colorado Springs, I think we had stuff on 2 or 3 different stations, and we got 5 or 6 more people to register. And then they're actually coming out on Friday night for one night of our training. So yeah, I think because you get the veterans to watch it, I think it's an enormous help.
Absolutely. Getting the word out is half the battle. And I think anytime you can have a media presence there to highlight what's going on, because people, they don't know about the good work that's being done with these organizations. So being able to get in front of a camera and show some live action, I think it's important so people understand what's going on, and they get behind their military for sure. So I think it also builds some respect for the officiating community when they understand that people who serve the country are now serving their local youth sports program or their high school. So I think that's it's a good overlap for sure. And we've led into this a little bit, but we haven't done a deep dive yet. So such an important part of officiating is mentorship. So why is it so important to have officials with military backgrounds mentoring officials that have a similar background? And Bill, I'm gonna put you on the spot as our resident military on this call.
Yeah, thank you, Dana. Well, I appreciate the question. I would, I haven't gone through it with a mentor just yet, but as my time in the service, I would say most people would say this is similar to what they face. Is you change locations every 2 years. 3 years. Sometimes if you're in a training center 1 year and 1 year, then 2 years, and it's multiple locations that you're going to be at. Pretty much every time you go somewhere, you've got to learn either the new way a different squadron is doing it, a different job, a completely different role. And so someone is there to teach you the ropes. What I would say that maybe officials, from what I hear, what they may be missing out on is they're trying to have the most seasoned Super Bowl referee. Only that person can be a mentor. I think that's maybe completely wrong. Someone who's been doing it for 2 years and knows who I need to reach out to, it could just show me proper hand signals, would be a mentor. But to your question is, if you had someone with a military background versus someone who's just a seasoned official who's not a veteran, we'd be able to, have those joking conversations and, kind of relate it to some of our background. Like, okay, clearly we probably have that conversation as what we did in the service. And then they could probably say, okay, you remember when you're on the flight deck, it's just like that. You've got to communicate with the other people. And so they would know things, and there'd be some people that don't know because their experience is unique. So I think it would go a long way, but I'd be just as honored to have someone, to be happy to be my mentor who wasn't a veteran.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Bill, when you work with a first responder or a military veteran, it seems like they just have the natural ability to talk to you. Like they're very receptive in how they tell you what you're doing wrong or how you can improve. It's not like, to me, it's kind of like the teacher mentality. When you have an official that's a teacher, they seem also very good at explaining to you why, as opposed to just saying, you need to signal better. Well, what do you mean by signal better? They seem to they offer up advice in a much more tactful way. And I've noticed that over my years of officiating.
All right. So now is the time you can all give a plug for your organization. So if somebody wanted to learn more about each of your organizations, or if they want to be a part of them in some way, where do they go?
Well, I'll kick it off again. We have a website with all the information on it. It's www. It's Battlefields 2 with the numeral 2 as opposed to spelled out, ballfields.org. And everything's there, and people can go on it, find out how to apply. And there's the video I talked about is very compelling. I think anybody that watches it brings a tear to their eye, actually.
I cried.
Yeah. So that's it for us.
We're at protectthegame.org, and all our information is on there. We have a donation, and we have our golf outing on there, and we have all our trainings listed on there, and we'll give you all the information for that, and then who you need to contact after that.
All right. And for us, it's vets2refs.com. So just like Bob, we're vets and then the numeral 2, or sorry, the number 2, not a Roman numeral. Vets, the number 2refs.com. Everything's there. There's a sign up form. There's a donation link. There's all kinds of information there. You can always, write us an email as well if you prefer that route, or I think maybe our numbers might even be on there. But that's veterans2referees.com or at gmail.com if you want to send an email.
There you go. Well, thank you for that. I just want to make sure everybody knew where to find you because that's important. So a final question for all four of you. The From A to Zebra podcast has a mission every week to educate, elevate, and excite our listeners. What can you tell us about officiating and the connection with the military within officiating that accomplishes this mission?
So I've officiated mainly high school baseball, football, a little bit of basketball, and also hockey. And I can just, like I mentioned already, when you go into the locker room, you're meeting new guys every game almost, unless you're on a crew for football. But every time it's a new guy. And when that guy, you can just tell that he's a nice, crisp outfit. His uniform's on right, fits right. He speaks well. And he's just a really open and engaging person. And you can almost tell every time that he's an ex-military or he's a current first responder. So I'm honored to always work with those guys. And it's been great running this organization with Bill and meeting all you wonderful people that are doing the same thing.
Thank you.
The only thing I would say is that I have tremendous respect for people who have served the military, and I have tremendous respect for people that go out and officiate. It's not always the easiest thing to do. I think the people that do it find it very rewarding. And so that would be my comment is two very respected different kinds of people coming together.
And I think I think just even with the military guys and anybody, it's the whole camaraderie thing. The exciting thing is that, they all can get into a locker room and then they all end up having something in common and they talk about it and they enjoy it. And the one thing I will tell you is you get veteran officials, a lot of them, they will do anything they can to help somebody new or somebody else. It is one tight-knit community. I can tell you that. You go somewhere, I travel out my job and I run tournaments. I start talking to umpires and the next thing you know, he knows this guy and he knows this guy and you know this guy. And it's the relationships and everything to get built in it. And it excites me to see the whole thing come together. It's a great group and they will learn it as they do it. The longer they do it, that it's a small world with the officials. There's no doubt.
Very true.
Well, let's see. Bob mentioned respect. I'd say the two sides of the house, they should get respect, and maybe they don't always get it, but both officials and military first responders are essential. So if you're still listening to this and you're waiting for me to give this answer, I'm talking to you. Is that we need you. There is a shortage of officials, and so just sign up. Let's get on the field. Let's get on the court. Let's get on the ice. Go out there and run the game. Do some officiating. Participate in the sport that you love. Help the kids. Learn your community. I can't wait.
Love it. I can't wait to have you on the field. I'll have to come and watch you. I'll come cheer for you because I always like to be a fan of officials because I think you need a fan. So sometimes there's only one in the stand. It might be me. So Jed McNally, Bill Kreuper from Vets to Refs, Jordan Cohen, Protect the Game, Robert Rivinius from Battlefields to Ballfields. Thank you all so much for your time, but more importantly, thank you so much for what you're doing for officials, for military, for first responders. You're doing great work, and it's just so cool to see so many people that are really on the same page with this, and I'm looking forward to seeing the connections between these three organizations in the future as we all do good work together. So thank you for your time on this podcast and all the hours that I know you're volunteering to give back to this officiating avocation. We want to say thank you for joining us on the From A to Zebra podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X for more information about the show. Until next time, thanks for joining.
If you or someone you know is interested in any of these great opportunities provided by these wonderful organizations, be sure to visit them on the World Wide Web at battlefieldstoballfields.org, protectthegame.org, vetstorefs.com. Be sure to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, and also catch From A to Zebra on Instagram at from_A_2_zebra, Facebook, From A to Zebra podcast, and on X at From A to Zebra.